She told me somebody famous.
Somebody famous.
Yes, famous.
Famous or infamous?
Infinite more infamous. I am the author of the Family Justice and Accountability Act, so we're down here for the third time since October 20th.
Great.
We did a 2-day seminar with the government being shut down. We were supposed to have a congressional hearing room at the Rainbow office building, but it wouldn't have fit the crowd we brought down. We brought down over 250 families.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, and we're dealing with thousands of families. I've done this for over 18 years, watching these judges all over the country, and it is a very bad system. It's just damaging our families all over the country.
I know we're over the target with the subject because just a few days ago I started getting emails from people who are trying to undermine what Dr. Lee's doing, to have an open conversation. Whenever you start getting emails that are going after the individuals who are trying to solve the problem, you know you're over the target. They're not necessarily talking about the problem. They're not talking about the outcomes. They're not talking about the court. They're talking about the vilifying the individuals who are attempting to do something about it.
I've been there.
Now, your name didn't come up on the list, so
I've been there, though. Trust me, I've been there. As soon as you start exposing this, they start sending their little, we call them trolls. They
I call
start
them
sending.
roaches.
They would call?
Roaches.
Yeah, roaches. Yeah, same thing. I like that too.
As soon as the light comes on, you stay there for the corner.
Yeah, they just come out of the woodwork and they try to derail what you're doing. But I appreciate Dr. Gandhi, and I agree with the statistic that she brings forward. What I've experienced in the 18 years that I've been court watching judges all over the country, which I do 5 days a week, but this work is 8 days a week, is that it's generally, they're not just breaking up relationships because they just don't get along anymore. But what I'm seeing is a lot of abuse, a lot of physical and mental and even sexual abuse, even of children, and I've seen it grow into an epidemic lately. It's scary to see the amount of biological members of families that are actually molesting their own children, and the courts are just endorsing it. It's every time they report abuse, the abuser gets the children, and if I didn't see it myself, I would not believe it.
Yeah, that is one of
I've
the
been
things.
witnessing it.
That's one of the things that we heard in the testimony in Arizona. The other thing, and I don't quite know what to make of this, but the so-called professionals, we have a number of reports that would suggest that they themselves are sexual predators.
I agree with that.
Now,
I agree with that.
when you go to the court with that, they don't really want to hear it. So here's one of the things that is coming in Arizona. One of my responsibilities in the Senate is the chairman of the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. Yeah, I'm the guy with the microscope. And we have a great committee, some hardcore government accountability people, both Republicans and Democrats, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a great committee.
That's awesome. I love that.
And one of the things that I have put on the list for the Auditor General is to take a look at the Office of the Court Administrator. I want to know, what are the qualifications that the court requires of individuals, you're already lighting up with your Christmas, that the court uses or hires to provide certain services. For example, court work, behavioral intervention, or supervision, or transport, or guardian ad litem. You know, one of the things that we're seeing right now is a number of these psychologists now are going to law school so that they can be guardian ad litems. I think they realize that the winds of change are coming to the family court system, and they're trying to figure out how are they going to protect their cash flow.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You hit the nail on the
Might
head.
be both.
It's, the court, first of all, was built without the vote of the people, both state and congressionally. So that's usurping our authority. That's number one. And they kept suppressing us since then. It is a multi-trillion-dollar business. That's what it is. I don't believe it's even a court. It looks like a court. It's a good facade, but it's definitely not. How do you call something like this a court of law when they don't even understand the laws or respect them?
Or don't follow the law.
So don't follow the laws. The Constitution is completely ignored. The Articles of Human Rights completely ignored. And what I'm a forensic expert in is the Americans with Disability Act. So that's how I help my families across this country. They don't even have the slightest comprehension of what that even means. They think a judge actually thinks that he can order, grant, or deny ADA accommodations. I'm like, that's no different than a man reeling in with his wheelchair and you saying, I'm gonna grab the wheels and leave the chair out in the hallway. You can't do that with invisible injury, and these families are traumatized. They're not with their children, which is one of the worst things you could possibly do to biological families. They're trying to reunify sexual abuse of children. Why would anybody do that? Why would you give that message to a young lady that it's okay to go back with your sexual abuser, and then later in life, if something happens to you,
It's all about grooming.
it's all about grooming.
And that's why I brought up the idea that we know of at least two of the individuals that the Maricopa County Family Court System employs, who I would classify, I'm a retired criminal investigator, DPS officer out of West Michigan. I would classify these individuals as sexual predators. 100%. So why would you permit, because the other question that goes into the evaluation of the court's vetting process for individuals that serve whatever their needs are, what kind of background investigation have you done? What are your disqualifiers? What are the things that somebody has to have in order to meet the standard to provide the service that you're asking for? How do they bill their clients? You know, one of the things that was kind of the tip-off on this whole idea of the fact that they don't adhere to your standard of practice, they don't accept insurance. Why don't you accept insurance? That would solve a lot of problems for the families that can't afford what the court is ordering them to do. Well, that's because there's no peer-reviewed study on successful outcomes having to do with court-ordered behavioral intervention. Now, in spite of the fact that they claim that there is, when called to produce that proof, it's like, well, we have this paper. Okay, having a paper as a college professor in school of psychology, that's not proof of satisfactory outcomes. That's what I call the bullshit card. Forgive me.
And there's a lot of it in family court.
Well, yeah, I'm a farm boy. It's a manure wagon full and it's thrown it all over the place. Okay. So I agree with you. We need to have serious reform. Anytime, I'm just a huge fan of the Constitution, as I should be.
That's right.
Anytime there's going to be a separation of parents from their children, that should be a jury trial.
Thank you so much. That's in my bill.
6-member jury, and
of your peers.
You've got 120 days to develop your case, and every day that clicks off that you're not prepared, because this tends to come from the vexatious parent. Every day with 120 days that you're not prepared to go to court, it's going to cost you. You're going to pay the court a fee if you're not prepared.
Although a lot of the parents are in complete trauma and they can't afford an attorney, and the attorneys are not really working for them anyway. They're working for the court.
I'm trying to solve one problem at a time here.
Yeah.
Now, they are all interconnected, okay?
Yes, sir.
But if we put limits on the court of how much they can charge, and we put a defined timeline there, we at least get it to a place where the family that can't afford it now knows, okay, it's not going to cost me any more than this. Perhaps I can get help from the state. And that's another piece to this puzzle that we haven't addressed yet. And that is, you know, in Arizona law, the court has to take into account a family's ability to pay before making an order. Okay? If they don't, the court can't engage in extortion to get that family to take out a loan, to go to other family members. Okay. So how is the court going to handle that? That's what I think that this needs to go back to when we're talking about any kind of separation of parents from their kids that exceeds more than 120 days. I would prefer 30 days, but any kind of separation between parent and child, that needs to go to superior court, and there needs to be a jury trial if it's going to go more than 120 days.
These cases are going for years, by the way. They're going into 21 sometimes.
But
most states, what I've seen is it's supposed to be a 90-day from commencement of the trial or the hearing, but none of them are doing that. They're just dragging and dragging and dragging, keeping the families in limbo on purpose.
That's about billable hours. That's about an attorney's like, well, I'm going to be on vacation. what the judge should say, in my humble opinion, if you're going to be on vacation and you have a trial in front of my court, refer it to another attorney.
Exactly, fill the spot, exactly.
Because we're not moving this.
Okay. Well, they're just waiting for their children and they're
Be prepared to be in my courtroom within the next 120 days. Plan your vacation around that. Okay?
Or replace.
Now, again, we go back to this concept that this entire system is not built on the pole star of what is in the best interest of the child. It's what's in the best interest of the people who are charging the parents. Hate to say it.
And it's far worse than that, actually. It's far more corrupt than even that, but yeah, that's a good
least,
start.
We can at least agree on that one, right?
Definitely. I think we'll probably agree on all the rest of it too, but it's a lot for people to even see just how corrupt the court system is. It's so bad. It's a multi-trillion-dollar, I believe, child trafficking industry. Truly, and I've been able to.
Well, grooming certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got so many stories. So the minors that were affected by this, that have provided my office with testimony, they very clearly have said the experience with the psychologist ruined their life. They are now aged out. And this is where I think this is one of the things that's missing from the discussion. All interaction with a psychologist that is trying to force a relationship does is teach the minor how to play the system until they age out. I've got some very personal cases, individuals that I know, adolescents that I know who have been through this system. When I ask them, so tell me, how has this affected you? Their response is, I know it's total bullshit, and I know that when I turn 18, I'll be able to tell people how I truly feel. People, and I hope she sees this. A young lady on Fox by the name of Katie Pavlich. I listened, and this was years ago, when she was going to University of Arizona. I'm not sure which school, I don't know if she's in the School of Journalism or what she was in. But every Friday, the radio personality, John Justice was his radio name. It's not his real name, but every Friday they had U of A Katie. And she was able to go on the air, and it was a hoot. She was able to tell, yeah, my professor's trying to bullshit me again this week. What they don't understand is I'm onto them, and when I graduate, I will surpass their expectations. And it was sad the day she graduated because U of A Katie went away. But now we have Katie Pavlich, who is perhaps one of the best rising star journalists on television news, broadcast news. And I had the good pleasure of knowing her parents because they're constituents of mine in the legislative district. So there are truth tellers out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's nice to know, it's nice to be comforted knowing that even with the absurd happenings that go on in court, there is still hope for some of these kids because they're learning what corruption looks like firsthand. My concern is that it's going to affect so many of them in long-lasting ways as adults.
It clearly is.
And what we're doing is we're propagating a generation of abuse. We got to stop the cycle somewhere. And I think that one of the things that the court has failed to do miserably is vetting of their resources to make sure that those individuals who are interacting with families aren't grooming the children, aren't engaged in a perverse financial motive, that they're truly there to serve the interests of the children. Now, I know some psychologists and some counselors who are top notch. They're good people, and they're doing it for the right reason. They're not afraid to call a parent an abuser. They're not afraid to call a spade a spade and tell the court, this individual doesn't deserve to have visitation for the next 60 days until we get their attention. They're abusive in the way that they talk to their other family members. Because here's the reality. I mean, once a man and woman come together, and there's no other way this happens, and have a child, they're a family. Whether they like it or not, even if they divorce, they're still a family. They have a child in common. And I've heard it said it's not illegal to be a bad parent. Well, maybe not. But there are consequences to being a bad parent. Now, who gets to decide what's a bad parent? Anyone who's acting, I mean, this is in law, anyone acting outside of the best interest of the child, best interest of the minor, they're a bad parent.
I just wish that courts would take it seriously when there's physical assault and battery and molestation, and they don't take that seriously.
Yeah.
They don't take, matter of fact, they take the children from the protective parent, and I've seen this over and over for 18 years, and place the child into the care of the abusive parent.
Well,
And then that, the child is completely at a loss because now the child is told, when you see something, say something. It's known all over the country.
Yeah.
But when you do, you get punished for it.
Right.
So that's why I step in, because that is what has to stop.
Well, this is promoted by AFCC,
Yeah.
which, we've got these parents' rights organizations all over the country. Well, if parents behave themselves and recognize the parental rights of their co-parent, and these are rights, these are not just agreements, these are rights. If they recognize the parental rights of the other parent, we wouldn't need family court.
Well, I have a completely separate thing because I feel like, and this is literally firsthand experience, so I'm not just making this up. This is what I've experienced and witnessed across the country. So I did something in April of 2024 called Alternative to Family Court, because two decent parents do not need family court. And I have successful case after case after case, 100% of the time, where they take maybe 5 or 6 sessions. We develop it to fit their and tailor their family, whatever it is that they need. So if they have businesses or whatever they have, so they don't get robbed of everything, including their children. And these families work very well together, so they stay completely out of family court. The families in family court, and I know this might sound shocking, but the truth is it's one abuser and one protector. That's what I've seen. Very seldomly is it not that, unless CPS brought them in, unless they were brought in a different way. I don't normally see 2 decent parents. Nobody's perfect, obviously, but I usually see one abuser. That's why the relationship broke up, and it becomes more dangerous for a domestic violence victim when you're leaving a relationship.
And it's not always.
And family court just.
It's not always physical violence. And
No,
that's
it's
one
not.
of the things that I don't think the
Control.
court is prepared to understand.
They don't.
One of the cases that I know very well, the guy never physically abused his ex, but the demeaning and derogatory, emotional and psychological
Or the
abuse,
money control.
or the money control. That's another one. Not having, and it manifests itself as, kind of get 5 bottles of water. No, you don't need that, and he goes in and buys a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah.
Okay. Or goes to
You get hammered, you're hitting the nail every single time.
or goes to the strip club.
Like literally.
Okay. While the ex is at home, taking care of the child with barely enough in the refrigerator. Okay. It's those kinds of behaviors.
The control.
Okay, that's a reprobate mind, and that is something that I think that if you got, and this is where I don't like the idea of family court interfering with parental time, but if that's the only way that you can get a parent to
maybe get help or to do the right thing.
if it's the only way that society can get the parents' attention, then for a period of time, we're going to limit your access to your kids because you're sexually abusive, you're emotionally, psychologically abusive. Let's see if we can help you change a little bit, alter your behavior. Do we need a family court for that? I don't know.
I think that those situations belong in criminal court, and there's domestic violence, it belongs in criminal
absolutely.
court, not in family court. And if there's false allegations, it's also a crime in every state, so it belongs in criminal court. This way it would stop it completely.
So I think family court in Arizona probably isn't going to go away. But our objective is to alter the trajectory of how family court operates and eliminate certain things. we want to essentially eliminate this whole concept of unlimited billable hours. We want to make the decision matrix for the court time bound. And of course, if attorneys step outside of these, it's an automatic complaint to the bar. Then of course we've got the vetting process for psychology professionals, psychiatric professionals, counselors. We need to know that they do indeed have the education necessary to engage in the practice that they're claiming they're qualified for. And then of course if there is evidence of racketeering between a judge or judges, a group of attorneys,
it's a breath of fresh air to hear you say it.
That needs to go to prosecution.
Yes.
And their rights and privileges need to be held. Society can't tolerate that kind of thing.
And they should be held at a higher standard, not a lower standard. So if they're in this position,
They should be held at the
the
highest
highest
standard,
standard.
which is what?
The gold standard. The gold
The
standard.
whole star of what's in the best interest of the child.
Genuinely, not their fake, facade, what they want to call them. And these guardian items are literally trained to lie. So they'll say, oh, the child's legs are falling off. Oh, the child is thriving now. Meanwhile, the child doesn't want to go back with so-and-so.
There's
Meanwhile, the
really no
child
need-
is grieving to go back home.
Yeah, I don't see a
They
need
just
for
lie.
guardian ad litem.
No, it's-
What I do see is a need for the judge to have an in-camera conversation with the minor who's affected. By age 14, these kids know they have a preferential parent. And I think that now the competition is on. Why is the other parent not preferred? And forgive the expression, but that's kind of a come to Jesus moment for the parent who's not preferred. Do you think maybe you're the problem? Perhaps there's some things that you could do to alter your behavior. And I'm not talking about Disneyland dads or Sara Lee moms. I'm talking about what is it? Listen to the minor. This is another piece of legislation
Where they can
we're
feel
looking
safe.
at is voice of the minor. What is it that the minor is telling you that they don't like? How about, Dad, it scares me when you drink and drive. Your road rage, how about you get that under control? Or, I really don't like it when you smoke dope around me because when I go to school and my clothes smell like marijuana, the kids think I do marijuana. I don't like that. Okay, when you start having those kinds of real conversations in front of somebody who is perhaps in a position with the court, to call the parent out for what do we need to do to make you change your behavior. Now we might get somewhere, but it doesn't. I don't believe that it needs to be a psychologist. Probably a.
Well, you have to be very careful with these court-appointed psychologists because, first of all, as an ADA expert, you're supposed to be able to choose your own therapist, or it wouldn't be therapy.
That's
I
right.
have to feel safe with the person that I'm getting therapy from.
Exactly.
And I'm being forced by somebody that's going to diagnose me to suit the narrative of the court. That is so.
So that's one of the things that we opined on in our report, that the Arizona family court system appears to be in substantial non-compliance with federal law.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the
So-
worst in the country.
We got a big problem to fix.
Yeah.
And I have intimate knowledge of some of these problems because some of these parents are friends of mine.
You're probably familiar, I can't think of her name because it's a few years back, but it was one of the worst cases I saw. She was the most innocent mom you'd ever want to meet, and her son was Jonathan, if you remember. He was a disabled child. They actually put a boot on this mother's head, pulled her out of her house and arrested her, drove her around a morgue to scare her and separated her from her child. It was one of the worst cases in Maricopa County. There was another one, and I wish I could think of her name, where a lovely family, lovely, happy, intact family, took their baby to the hospital. I don't remember which hospital it was. Took their baby to the hospital for a fever. The baby's fever went down to the hospital. Anyway, long story short, SWAT came to their house at 2 in the morning. Mom was sleeping, the child's fever went down. She just simply said, I'm going to take the baby to the pediatrician tomorrow. We'll do a checkup and make sure everything's okay. They didn't like that. They wanted the baby, okay? And the mom SWAT came to their house and took the baby in the middle of the night while Dad was rocking the baby in the living room. And I can't even tell you the destruction they did to that family. Why are these things happening? Like, this is absurd. Absurd. On steroids.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. And if you didn't see it yourself, you would be like, this can't possibly be happening in our country, but it is.
Mhm.
But it is.
So, I mean, you have serious reform in the family court system.
Well, it's wonderful to have you not have to be trained, that you know what's going on. And they have to go into all these Congress members' offices and senators and so on, and it's like they're hearing it for the first time, which also shocks me, because I know that there's thousands of families constantly complaining, feeling unheard. So it's a blessing to hear you be able to just be head to head with it and, know what's going on.
Well, thank you.
It's really appreciated.
I work for my constituents,
Yeah, you really do.
and I'm pleased to be able to do